Kunal Botra as well as Shaheen Avukadam. And the first query is coming to you, Kunal, and this one is for Marion, holding Bandhan Bank at the level of 315 rupees per share since the last 1 year. What should I do now? Should I sell all or accumulate more or hold on to the entire pack of Bandhan Bank stock that she's holding? She's saying that she can hold on for 1 more year.
So I think there's a probability that many of the banking stocks, they can continue their correction even from a near-term perspective. Now, Bandhan Bank, of course, has been one of the weaker charts relatively because the stock was one of the few names which was unable to break past about the 200-day moving average, even at a time when the Bank Nifty was looking quite strong 2-3 months back. So I think in that sense, the stock can drag a bit more. The near-term supports or the next level of supports now for Bandhan Bank on the charts, which I could sense would be closer to 220 mark, 220 to 25 from current level. So I think if you're okay with the stock correcting by another 5 to 10% at least from current levels, then I would suggest that wait for an averaging out opportunity closer to that kind of a support territory for Bandhan Bank.
Okay, Shahina, this next question is not really stock specific, but I think this is something that a lot of investors, not just those viewing this show and that are live on this platform, but everybody across the board is wondering this. This is specifically from Soumya, and she's asking, considering the choppiness in the market in the recent correction, is it wise to stay invested or should I come out of it? I know this question is not related to a particular stock, but I have quite a lot of money invested and I'm concerned and would like to understand it from an expert's point of view. So this is, and she's clarified that she's a long-term investor. How does she approach her investing?
Well, the unfortunate fact remains for long-term investors is that most of us are usually fully invested. So the market is in a corrective phase. We have to acknowledge that. And I will not be surprised to see another 5% fall from the 10% we've already seen in the shorter term before we see any meaningful recovery. So I would, in fact, book profits in about 5 to 10% of my portfolio, remain in cash and look for opportunities to actually add on to stocks that are performing even in these negative times, or to add on stocks which actually may emerge over the next 3 odd months. So in short, I would be booking some profits. I would advise, and I think most of the investors may have already started booking some profits a couple of weeks back, could do another 5% and remain in cash to reinvest and to add in the future. So yeah, the answer is one should look to book some profits.
All right. So on a similar trend question, I'll take this one to you, Kunal. Tarun is asking whether he should start buying at current levels or wait for further corrections on the Nifty, say about 16,000 to 16,200. Is that when he should start buying into markets, or should he start buying into markets now?
See, I think it's a very interesting question, but at the same time, I'd probably try and give it a more of a broader answer. Now, when the market enjoys such a fantastic uptrend, we've seen the last 18-19 months, from 7,500 odd lows towards 18,600, 700. I think it's been a phenomenal uptrend. So I think in that sense, a 2-month correction doesn't really derail what has happened to the markets in the last 18-19 months. And as it is, I think the markets were anticipating some sort of a correction since the month of August. Sooner than later, we've gotten to that corrective mode. Now, typically, a bull market correction gets into 2 phases. One of them is a 10% correction, and the second one is more of an extreme that we typically get into a zone of 15 to 20% correction on the indices. So the 10% correction is what we've already gone through on the index. Now, for someone who's already wanting to buy, I think you have to have buying in stages at current zone. So you can start buying at current levels of 10% correction on the index, and of course maybe a 20% to 25% correction on broader sense of stocks, and then keep some powder dry in case if the correction extends, say over the next 1.5 odd month, then you can get many of these stocks into a much cheaper territory than what they are right now. So I would sense that have a staggered approach over here. Keep some powder dry for in case if the market gets into a corrective zone. But then looking at the extent of the last 18 months and then looking at the last 2 months, I think one should not completely be unfazed with this correction. It's a part and parcel play when the market gets into a structural uptrend of a multi-bull market.
Absolutely. And this is actually a correction that a lot of people had been clamoring for. That's the irony of the situation we are in, right, Kunal as well as Shahina. And once it comes, then there is a lot of panic that comes in as well. But this next question, Shahina, I'm coming to you on it because though Madhav wants me to take this question to Kunal, I'm guessing he won't have enough information on the charts. The stock is Ami Organics, and this is a stock that is a recent listing. It has lost quite a bit of ground, and he's gotten at elevated levels of 1391. I believe that is the peak. What should he do?
Well, even I don't have too much information on this. I've not really looked at it, and we don't have even, in fact, information on what is the annual, what they would do for the full year in terms of earnings. But the sector P is pretty high, which is around 45 times. So, but I would think that most of the new listings are going to be in a corrective phase. So, if you want to hold, that's fine. Otherwise, you could look to average at much lower levels. That's all I can say. I don't have too much information.
₹1,000 per share. He's saying he has a time horizon of 2 years. He wants to know what should he do. Should he switch to any other sector stock, or should he continue to hold on to SBI cards? That particular counter saw sharp downtick actually last week, Shahina. It got a lot of them actually pretty jittery about the counter. What should Harsh do with his holding right now?
I would suggest that, in fact, he should actually try to exit the stock and switch on to maybe SBI, the SBI Bank, or even ICICI Bank. I think the cards business is likely to see incremental pressure going forward from various other fintech companies, and it would be safer to switch his money to SBI or ICICI Bank. Both look good at the current levels in terms of valuation as well as in terms of growth over the next 1 to 2 years.
I'm coming to you next, Kunal, on this one because it's seemingly something that is in line with what you had said in the Chartbusters segment in the market in the earlier show. We've got a question from Aarti for the medium term, and she's asking about putting money into pharma at this juncture at the current price. What would you say to that? And I believe Sun Pharma is something that you're looking at very closely.
Well, yes, Alex, and I think add to that, maybe a Cipla as well looks attractive. I think that stock also looks attractive at current zones of 875, 880. I think if I'm not wrong, it's trading in that range. Both these stocks have relatively showed some signs of stability, I think, in the last 4-5 days. Now, but then the aspect of holding the pharma stocks is whether you would just want to shield your portfolio towards the market correction, or whether you're looking at a substantial upside, or you're looking at a time frame with expecting a substantial upside. So that's the most important characteristic. Now, if you're expecting a substantial upside from current levels, then I believe stick to large cap pharma names. And I think if you want, you can probably add to that maybe a stock like Dr. Reddy as well, where the sell-off has somehow abated, even though the stock is trading at 4,500 odd zone. So I would suggest that stick to pharma names and large cap pharma stocks. So I think in that sense, Sun Pharma, Cipla, and maybe a Dr. Reddy as well at current levels could actually turn out to be good risk reward plays at current zones.
All right. This next query that we have is coming in from Sagar, and he wants a technical view on HUL, Kunal. He sold about 60 lots in futures at around 26-25 levels. 2300 was a crucial level to hold on, but it was broken. So he wants to know, should I continue my short position or book profits at current market price?
That have a trailing stop loss mechanism. Like I think I remember I clearly mentioned similar trades for stock like BSC, of course not related to the current query. But then when you are into a deep amount of profit on short term charts, it's far more prudent enough to have a trailing stop loss. So even if, for example, the Friday's trading session for HUL was quite stark in terms of the downtrend, even if you have a 50% of the gap or the trading range for HUL as a stop loss, that could be a good enough trading stop loss. So I think that would land closer to 20 to 70, 20 to 75 for HUL. So keep that as a trailing stop loss. And if the stock is unable to break past about those levels, then we can expect that the weakness would continue. Only if it breaks past about 20 to 70 odd mark, which is the 50% of the candlestick of Friday, is where I believe that there could be a sharper reversal in many of the FMCG stocks, including HUL.
Okay, Shahina, this next one's for you. Another recent listing, ABSL AMC. We've got Srinivasan who's holding at levels of 650 and he's looking at this from the perspective of 4 to 5 years. Of course, it's broken from those levels. It's trading currently at 515 or thereabouts. Should he hold on? Is your view positive on this counter?
Well, I think we are seeing a lot of correction coming in most of these listings, recent listings, which includes, of course, ABSL. I mean, it's fallen from quite a bit from its recent high, almost now to about 515 type of levels. And I would say that the longer term looks decent for the company, for the asset management company. So one could continue holding, but you have to be ready to see a further correction, and maybe you can then buy it at dips closer, maybe to about 450 or odds over the next 3 months. But as of now, you can hold it.
All right, this one is coming in from Niranjana and wants to know, is it a good time to buy Nifty Bs? What possible gains can we expect in the period of the next 2 years? Kunal, do you have a view on this one, Nifty Bs?
So again, I think it's in broader construct with the overall market. But as I said, it's possible that the markets can get into a further corrective mode. Like what I explained earlier, that in a bull market, it's natural for the indices to correct 10% to at large maybe a 20% odd correction as well. We've already corrected 10%. So as a starting point, it could be a good zone where you can look to start buying at current levels and then keep some powder dry in case if there is any further correction of 5 to 10% on the index going forward. But largely, I think it could be a good idea where you can start chipping in rather than waiting that you start at those 15% or 20% corrections. I think it's very natural that you start adding to your Nifty Bs positions at current zone and then look to average it out further if the index gets into a further correction zone from current levels.
All right, Shaina, Kunal, let's speeden things up a little bit. We're running short of time. We have another few minutes for sure, though. Coming to you on this one, Shaina, Coal India is the name of the counter. Priyanka is holding 1,000 shares at levels of 156 and wondering whether to hold for the medium term. What would the advice be?
Well, I would say that one can hold for the medium term. Coal prices are doing steady and there's a good demand. So one can hold for the medium term with maybe a target of something like 150.
This one is coming from Chaitanya and this one is for you, Shahina. Chaitanya wants to know, is Chola Finance a good NBFC? If not, then which other NBFC can he look to invest in for the longer term?
Chola Finance is one of the best NBFCs that we have, and if you are going to be remaining invested in NBFCs, better to remain invested in Chola. You can also look at M&M Finance, but at the same time, I think the whole sector is seeing a bit of corrective phase because of the tightening of the norms by RBI. So one can continue hold it for the medium to longer term.
Okay, Kunal, would you have a view on the future group companies? We've got a question from Rajeshwari. Of course, it's been in focus on account of the update on the Amazon case. But would you tread with caution? Would you play any of these counters?
Trade with caution. I don't have a specific view for individual stocks, but then broadly, I think you have to stay away with these kind of stocks which are in the thick of news flow, because such news flows, they have a tendency to last for maybe a couple of trading sessions or maybe a week odd, but then the impact on the downside is far more severe when the news abates, because when the position starts to unwind, when traders starts to unwind their positions into these individual stocks, you see a much more sharper contra or a reverse correction into these names. So I would specifically advise to stay away from such stocks.
Okay, Kunal, this one also is for you, and this one is coming in from Pragya Raj. Wants to know whether can I buy a 16,600 call option for this week?
Well, it's going to be a bit tricky. See, so there are 2 points to it. One of them, of course, is you are taking a contrarian view. Now, is there any reason why you have taken a contrarian view just because the markets have gone to a correction? You need to see evidences where that the markets are getting into a reverse kind of a rally. So either large cap stock starts to rally up. We've not seen those signs, at least in the last couple of hours of today's market open. So let's hope if there are some positive aspects which come by in the later half of the session, then we can expect some sort of a rally. The other aspect is if you're buying an at the money call option, the IVs right now, the India VIX is as 18.5 levels. Now, if the market starts to recover or rally, there is a higher possibility that the VIX can go against you. So the volatility index may start to come down dramatically. So your option premiums for current week would start eroding significantly. So I would sense that wait and watch. Don't be in a hurry to try and jump the gun and try and take a contrarian view. Let both the evidences come by where the stocks get into a recovery mode, and then the India VIX starts to settle into a mid-range. That could be a precise level where you can take a contra position of buying a call option on the Nifty.
Understood. To the experts, we're slipping into the rapid fire segment. Just a reminder, we're going to take as many questions as we possibly can over the course of 2 minutes, and I would encourage you to keep your answers very short. The first one's for you, Shahina. This is on Sona BLW Precision Forgings. We've got a viewer, Naveed, who's gotten allocation at IPO levels, wondering to exit or continue to hold.
We'll continue to hold. I see the targets of 900 coming over the next 1 to 2 years.
Okay, Ujjwal wants to know whether it's the right time to enter in counters like HDFC and HDFC Bank, Kunal.
Well, yeah, I think right time to start chipping into these names. But as I said earlier, that possibly wait for maybe another 5 to 10% correction further to average it out.
Kunal, Glenmark Pharma is the name of the counter. Venkatesh wants to know whether it can be bought at the current level, or would you suggest your other picks in the pharma space?
So I would suggest to avoid Glenmark Pharma. Buy the stock only if it crosses about that 525 mark.
Alright, Shahina, Saumitra is asking, Info Edge is at lucrative levels. Can I buy it at these levels right now?
We'll wait for a correction to buy, but it's definitely a hold on current levels also, and you can buy it at lower levels, but it's a hold.
Shahina, State Bank of India, Dr. Kartavya is asking, can it be bought in this fall?
Yes, I would believe that one can buy it in the fall. But I'm of course again repeating, please wait for corrections. But yes, valuations are extremely attractive, and one could be investing in SBI at lower levels.
KJ Singh wants to know, is Piramal Enterprises a good bet for the longer term, Shahina?
Yes, it is. There's a lot of restructuring happening, a lot of expansions, and one can be investing again over there for the longer term. It's one of the better managed companies in terms of its conglomerate with finance as well as pharma. So I think one can hold and add at lower levels.
Right. Okay. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, and I was just on the verge of asking another question. But Shahina and Kunal, thank you so much for joining in, for your patience, and in fact for the advice that you dispensed today. That brings us to the end of this segment, but there's more on the other side of this short commercial break, so do stay tuned.